Welcome, adventurers. I'm GM Coblin, and today we're going to build Katara from Avatar. And we're going to be using a Waterbender Kineticist. I'll go through her levels as well as the features that I picked for her. And at the end, I'll tell you why I didn't go with Kinetic Knight. Stick around. So before we get started, let's remember to like, subscribe, and if you happen to have any comments or any tips for my build or another build later on, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. So to start off with Kineticist, as I said in one of my previous videos, Get the Lane is probably one of the best, simply for gather power. Well, this time we're going to be going a different route. This time, we're going to go with the water element because I want to use it to get our AC up for defense. And we're going to start off with Undine. Undine? Well, Undine starts off with a 2 dex. We get a little more wisdom. We don't really care about our strength. Native outsider, but we're going to go with it to go with our water theme. The dex will help us because we're going to be in combat and we're going to try and increase our attack and our defense with just the one stat. Amphibious trait, which is an alternate racial trait. Also, water sense isn't bad. Gives us blind sight. Underneath the water, this takes away our energy resistance, but we only had resistance 5 to cold to begin with. Hydrated vitality isn't great, but if you've got the ability to get to some water, you can add a little extra healing on you in case you run out of magical items or some other way to do it. It does have dark vision to start off with, which most races really should. And it's just something different. My wife's always loved the Undines. As we start with the Kineticist, starting at level 1, you get your burn. We're going to be going with water, as I stated before. This time for your first element, you get gather power. Remember that gather power does not provoke an attack of opportunity. And then we get our hydrokinesis, which just allows us to create water, just some little cantrip level abilities. And then at first, I recommend Cold Blast. Yes, you deal a little less damage, but because we're going to go with the Kinetic Blade infusion, you're going to inherit whatever blast you're going to be using. And Cold Blast is going to be an energy, which means it's going to be against touch. So everything but goblins at this level is going to be okay. And then for our first infusion, we're going to go with Kinetic Blade. Kinetic Blade is going to allow you to turn your ranged kinetic attack into a melee attack. It allows you to do this either with an energy blast or a physical blast, whichever one you choose. Since it's just an infusion, it's level 1, and it does cost 1 burn. Now, Kinetic Blade, as I stated, uses whatever element to make its own weapon. There is something that a lot of people forget because they think now they're walking around with a lightsaber, which is cool. Kineticist is perfect if you want to make a Jedi or something. But while this doesn't provoke any attacks of opportunity, at the end of your turn, this does go away. Now, this can be fixed later on if you really want to put into it, but you're not going to have a normal attack of opportunity with this. And then level 2, as we go up, we get elemental defense, which gives us our AC. This is going to be Shroud of Water. Surround yourself with a shroud of water, ice, whatever. Shroud can either cover your body, function as armor, or float around your arm and block attacks. That functions as a shield. It grants a +4 for your armor and a +2 for your shield, so it's common for either our armor that we would be normally wearing. You can change the bonus and where this stacks depending on what you're doing. Now, I usually recommend people taking Celestial Armor. And while it's not a bad idea, I recommend Celestial Armor because it gives you flight. It's just kind of a given for a lot of light classes, unless your dex goes way too high. And you need to go with something else, leather padded or something, depending on your campaign. But also, by accepting burn with this, you can increase the bonus by 1 until burns removed, so after you sleep. You can increase the bonus multiple times in this way, but it can't be increased more than 50% of the starting value. When you change the shroud to grant a shield bonus, any bonus in excess of this limit doesn't apply, but it remains if it remains if you change the shroud's bonus type again. Whenever you accept burn while using water wild talent, the water coalescing around you allows your shroud to grant both the armor bonus and the shield bonus for 1 round. You can dismiss or restore the effect as an immediate action. It is a good defensive ability. I use this on a air and water kineticist that I made for a level 13 campaign. And at the start of the campaign, I was pulling around 40 AC, and I was a ranged combatant. You're also going to get wild talents starting at level 2. We'll just go ahead and take Slick. It's just going to be grease. But it's a good ability. 0 burn, no big deal. You can also take Kinetic Healer if you want. So it sounds really good. And you can take a point of burn, so 1 point of damage per level. You can also bestow this burn on someone else. The healing is not so great. Now, I did take this in my campaign with my air and water kineticist, but I did it because we were a small group and I wanted to be able to, if necessary, perform a temporary heal to be able to save one of my other 2 party members. It, even at level 10, you're looking at 20. That's not bad, but that also means that you're going to take 10 points of non-lethal damage, which is better than lethal damage, but it's still limited. So it's a good thing for backup, but I wouldn't depend on it. Level 3, you get elemental overflow. As I stated before, it allows you to increase your attack rolls and your damage. So as it goes up by every 3 levels, you're going to be going up 1 for attack and up 2 for damage. And then after you get to higher levels, starting at 6, and you've had 3 points of burn, you start to get size bonuses, which are fairly uncommon. So it allows you to increase some of your physical stats, like your con, which you will be needing, and then your dexterity. But this goes up, and you'll get it just as you advance in your levels, and it increases more and more up until level 16. Also, there is an overflow rod, which you can carry around on your person, and this allows you to increase your overflow as if you were 3 levels higher. This was one of the main items that I took as my kineticist because it helps you to reach that burn that much faster. Extend range is good. I realize that we're going to be going with a kinetic blade infusion and try and be more melee with this build, but that's going to allow you to have options. With a kineticist, and a lot of people want to play a kineticist and be melee, do the whole combatant or knight thing, Jedi. The problem is, as a kineticist, your multiple attacks do not get or come online until level 8. Level 8, you've already got some of your abilities. Kinetic Blade takes 1 burn. You can get that away by gathering power, that's true. That's fine. But you're not going to have to worry about full attacks until you get to level 8. By then, level 5, you get infusion specialization, which knocks out that infusion for your kinetic blade. And by the time you hit level 8 and you can use your iteratives, you're going to have infusion specialization too. Now, I realize that by level 5, you're going to be getting hasted, most likely, if you have a caster in your party. So that's something. It's a little way to keep up. Plus, your damage from your blast is going to be fine, even as a melee. Veil of Mists allows us to basically use the disguise self. And it starts off as minutes equal to your constitution modifier, which should be pretty good. And then for 1 point of burn, we can utilize it until the next time our burn is removed. So you can use 1 point of burn and get an all-day disguise self. It's pretty cool. It helps for any kind of sneaky missions or anything. I kind of like it. Like I said before, level 5 we get specialization. This is where your kinetic blade starts picking up a little bit better. You also get metakinesis, which is fantastic. And you can even mix in even with your kinetic blast as you advance enough to, or with your kinetic blade, to be able to take a little damage and do some extra tricks with it, which is one reason why I like the base kineticist. So we can do entangled infusion as a possibility for level 5. It does take a little bit. If you really need to, you can mix it into your melee attack, but it allows you to hit and then possibly, if they fail their save, root someone. It's great for cutting off opponents. Entanglement's good. You get your standard internal buffer at number 6. Water Dancer is what I recommend. So we don't get flight really on this, but Water Dancer, you call forth water to increase your speed and allow you to swim with ease, as if under the effects of slipstream. Well, we already are going to have a swim speed. And so by taking this, you're going to increase your swim speed by 20. So that's why we're going to end up having a 50-foot swim speed. It's great. You don't have to put anything into it. And if you're running a water campaign, then it's even better. Number 7, or level 7, we're going to take water again as our expanded element. We're not doing any mix and matches in any of these videos yet. And of course, that means we get the physical water blast once again, and then we're going to take ice blast, which is our physical composite. It's going to be half cold, half piercing. It's not bad. And, you know, it's going to take 2 burn as all your other composite blasts will. Here, being at level 7, we can take the whip infusion. And so this is going to allow us to, for 2 burn. Now remember, level 7, we're still down to 1 attack plus 5. But at level 8, we're going to get not only a utility, but we're also going to get our first iterative. And infusion specialization goes up to 2. So now you're going to be able to use this, have ranged attacks. It only was a detriment at all for 1 level, and you'll get those iteratives. Water Sense gives you 30 feet, detect anything in a body of water. It's basically Tremor Sense, like you saw with the last build. Impale is something you saw in the last one. It's a good option at this simply for the fact that at level 7, it gives you another option, which is great, to do a 30-foot ranged attack hitting multiple opponents. So up to 6 opponents instead of just standing in a line for melee, doing one after another. Shimmering Mirage is another one. So we have Impale for 7. Shimmering Mirage is a pretty good utility coming in for level 10. This is something you really want to get if you're having any trouble in your later levels with your AC, or since you're melee, it's just going to be good. Yes, you take 1 point of burn, but you're going to be taking a 20% miss chance with your shroud against any attacks against you. So it's fantastic. It gives you a little bit extra defense. Some other pretty decent ones for your later levels going up to 10 and then a little beyond. Healing Burst. Healing Burst. It doesn't heal you, otherwise it might be a little better for 1 burn. But 30-foot radius, you basically do a little bit of healing to everyone. And as I stated before, even on a level 10 character, it's still not great. That is 12. So you can give everyone just a little bit, enough to watch them die next round. Wall of Infusion is good also for this level coming in. I talked about this last time. It allows you to set up a defense for damaging other opponents. I think it's better generally using a energy blast simply because I think you get a little better return for it. Another possibility you can start taking at level 10 is going to be your Spark of Life. As I've mentioned before, this is going to allow you to summon elementals for your element. And at 0 burn, using part of your action you're going to be able to control it. It's just great. One of my favorites. Ride the Blast is good for maneuverability. Another one that you're going to be able to eventually take at level 15 is going to be Fragmentation Infusion. This is going to allow you to use your ice to literally make a small explosion. It's Fireball, only with ice, so it's not too bad, even if we do get it at such a late level. So, Water Sense Greater is just an amplification to check out a body of water. It's like limited scrying. So it's got very limited use cases, but it's another specific ability for your water elemental kineticist. Ice Path is pretty good if you're wanting to be level 12 for utility. And you freeze water vapor in the air, allowing you to travel just like you would with Airwalk, which is pretty good. So it's not a bad way to gain a little altitude in your character. Tidal Wave is one of the big ones. It allows you to basically cast Tsunami for one burn. This is going to allow you to not only pull water from an area, but it allows you some control of the battlefield with a pretty good CMB, actually. But it's pretty nice little, basically 9th level spell. Now, if you want to also add a couple more infusions to your character, you can take this one at 5th level. This one, if you're having trouble getting around the battlefield, is pretty decent because it's going to allow you to instantly move 30 feet in any direction, including up. So you could technically use this in other ways. You manifest your blade, and you get to attack once. So you could use this for all sorts of teleportation tricks, in all honesty. I would probably use it for that as my main reason for taking this. Otherwise, it's just basically going to be a charge with your kinetic blade. Which, once again, by the time we hit level 8, you're not going to miss that 2 burn on this for your infusion. The Whirlwind Blade Infusion is something you're going to be able to access at level 10. It does take 3 burn. I'm not so sure that I like it because by the time you hit level 10, the possibility of you having enough opponents around you, it's limited a lot of times. I don't think you'll see it near as much as you would have in smaller levels, but you have to wait. It allows you to make a single swing around you, and so anyone you can reach with your kinetic blade, and if it's a crit, you roll confirm. The crit lands against only the first target you hit. The blade vanishes instantly after the whirlwind. So, single attack against all foes. It's just an area effect for you. Once again, when it comes to your feats, I always prefer to have weapon focus. Since we're going to go with the melee build, you're going to need to take, for first level feat, which is why I did consider a human for this, you're going to want weapon finesse. This allows us to use our dex to progress us. You'll never get damage from your dex. You'll never get damage from your strength. Your blast is still going to deal damage as your blast normally would. So physical blast, it's still going to run in more from your con than the energy blast would, but it's the exact same. Which is why some people like it, getting the iterative with kind of your raw kineticist blast. It's dealing pretty okay damage. And always remember that you can take the extra wild talent feat starting at level 7. And this is going to allow you to get either the extra infusions if you are going to break away from the blade, or you can get extra wild talents to pad out your character's abilities. Now, why didn't I use a kinetic knight? So, as I showed you, a kinetic blade infusion takes 1 burn. It means at level 1, you're either going to have to take burn or you're going to have to gather power to nullify it. So until level 5, you're not going to be the best tank. Dex is going to constantly be going up. You're going to be able to get more out of your Dex build to get your AC up, which will not only increase your attack, but it will increase your defense as you level. Probably a little cheaper than a lot of your heavy plate. And that's another reason why we're water elemental, because you're going to get basically a free magical shield as you level up, and it increases quite a bit. And you don't have to spend any money on it. But a kinetic knight changes your class a little bit. Now it does get some of the cool little infusions. You get kinetic whip, which we were going to take anyway. It does allow you perform disarms, trips, things like that with it, because it automatically gets that quality. This is the only way that I know of that you can give your kinetic whip these qualities. And you do get the blade rush ability we talked about. Now, you get them a little sooner. So, kinetic whip, but that means you're also going to be taking burn for 3 levels if you're going to use kinetic whip. Kinetic blade, you start off with 0 burn, which is great if you want to start off at level 1 doing melee and not having to worry about gathering any power. But as I stated, by the time you hit level 5, you're going to be able to keep your range, and you'll still be able to use your kinetic blade ability, because you're going to have that infusion specialization that's going to help you. You can pump a tiny bit more into your infusions, yes, with an elemental knight. And if you want to be a heavy armored character, then this is the way to go, because at level 2 they get access to medium and heavy armor and shields. So you can go ahead and start enhancing those. Now, if you want to, since you become proficient with it, you can accept 1 point of burn to attune yourself to a specific light or heavy shield until the next time your burns remove. Wielding an attuned shield doesn't prevent the kinetic knight from gathering power, which means you have to accept 1 burn if you're ever going to gather power, unless you just are never going to use it yourself. Now, you gain elemental defense 2 levels later than you normally would. It also has specific rules in here for your Shroud of Water. And whenever your bonus would be increased by accepting burn, so you increase it, then you're going to enhance either your armor or the attuned shield only. And then, of course, to a maximum of +5. So what that means is, unless you're never going to gather power, just to use your shield properly, you're going to accept a point of burn. And then you have to accept burn to increase your AC, and it's only going to be on that shield. Then, of course, you'll enhance your armor and everything like normal. Now, you do get, as a kinetic knight, the Samurai's Resolve ability at a slightly lower level. That does get rid of your supercharge ability that you get as a kineticist, which is which just changes your ability to gather power. Because remember, that's the thing that I mentioned in other videos that increases it from 1 when you use a move action to 2, and then eventually to 3 points for your movement, since they're assuming you're not going to be using it at all. Also, you lose multiple infusions, but in general, you're probably not going to use a lot of infusions if you do decide to go ahead and play as a kinetic knight. Really, the only difference between what we build and what you're going to see with the kinetic knight is you'll start enhancing your armor like you normally would a heavy fighter, or, stick with light armor if you really want to. And then the shield rules if you care about gathering power. But one of the main reasons that I kind of do not like the kinetic knight is normal kineticist, as I stated, gets rid of that burn by level 5. Yes, that's 5 full levels. But you're stuck with patterned infusions. They're going to give them to you what they think you're going to need. And some of them are a little sooner. So, instead of 5, get it at 3. So it's pretty good. But it replaces metakinesis, which takes out a pretty decent tool. It alters your blast and infusions, and you can only use kinetic blade on your infusions. So what that means is you are only going to be able to do this in melee. So there's never going to be any range, and you're going to have to resort to a bow or something like a normal character. I like the ability to still be able to blast from a distance when you haven't been able to get up to your opponent yet, or if there's, for some reason, you're stuck at range, and you're not going to be able to run up there quite as easy. But that's also why Blade Rush is a possibility. Either way, running a Water Kineticist, either as a knight or as a standard Kineticist, will run you just fine. It'll be a lot of fun, and it'll definitely make you unique at the table. Enjoy. If you like this video, check out my others. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any tips or requests, drop them in the comments below. And until next time, may your crits be epic, your adventures legendary, and your gaming table filled with laughter.